Chosen one, the quiet that follows you is not emptiness, it is order. When you enter a room, the space seems to remember its original settings. The noise lowers a notch without being told. Conversations turn from exhibition to exchange. Even the frantic person at the edge of the table breathes like they just found a place to set their bag. People call it hypnotic because they don't yet have language for resonance. Their nervous systems register steadiness and lean toward it. Steadiness is what your high energy has become under governance. Heat held by a hearth, voltage housed in clean wiring, a tide answering faithfully to its moon. This is why women pause mid-sentence when you arrive. It is not sorcery and it is not conquest. It is orientation. Your silence reads as safety, and safety is rarer than charisma. Your presence tells the room you are not hunting for applause, not auditioning for access, not trading attention for oxygen. You carry yourself like a person who already belongs to his assignment. That belonging is melodic in a culture addicted to dissonance. Their eyes turn because their bodies turn first. The body trusts what is coherent before the mind can explain it. Let your coherence remain a refuge rather than a trap. The same stillness that steadies can also starve if you season it with contempt. If your quiet becomes a wall, people will press themselves against it trying to discover your door. If your gaze becomes a hook, people will mistake their curiosity for covenant. You are learning a quieter art. To stand open without being porous, hospitable without being harvested. You do this by letting your posture say what your mouth will not shout. Shoulders unstacked from pride. Hands unarmed by vanity. Eyes that bless without bargaining. A mouth that keeps its pace even when attention begs for tempo. This unadvertised grammar turns attraction into atmosphere instead of theater. Your high sexual energy hums under all of this. You do not deny it, and you do not deify it. You treat it as strength on assignment. It wakes you early and asks for work. It stretches you beyond the lazy sarcasm that used to pass for wit and beyond the cheap mystery that used to pass for magnetism. It reminds you to hydrate, to sleep, to pray, to build, to finish, because a bright current in a brittle vessel becomes scandal instead of shelter. This month you are caring for the vessel so the current remains useful. You are learning how to let desire stay human, named, blessed, bounded, directed, until it matures into a generosity others can live under. Notice how little you must say when your life is accurate. Women are not drawn to silence as performance. They are drawn to the peace inside it. You can speak simply, and meaning will travel farther than volume ever could. You can decline warmly, and dignity will remain on everyone's side of the table. You can receive admiration as a letter, not a lease. Where you used to fill the air to prove good intentions, you now allow the air to prove them. Your stillness becomes a litmus test. The frantic learn to slow without shame. The manipulative learn to leave without a scene. The honest learn to speak more honestly because your face does not charge a fee. There is a responsibility braided into this gift. Some eyes will come searching for rescue wearing attraction as a disguise. They will test your edges, not because they are cruel, but because few men have made edges feel like kindness. Keep the edges. Boundaries do not insult the worthy, they instruct the weary. Say the ordinary sentences that stop confusion from choosing costumes. I'm grateful, and I'm not available for that. I honor you, and I move at the speed of truth. I enjoy this moment, and I don't mortgage tomorrow. These lines are not slogans, they are shelter. Spoken without theater, they let admiration remain clean and longing remain human. Guard your mood as if it were a public utility. In a bright season, your interior weather becomes communal climate. If bitterness rises, the room chills. If vanity spikes, the oxygen thins. If gratitude returns, the air clears and conversation remembers its proportions. This is not pressure to be perfect. It is permission to be faithful. Faithful men repair quickly. When your tone nicked someone's trust, you circle back while the bruise is still soft. When temptation tried to turn attention into access, you name it aloud to the one who is never shocked by your humanity. And the naming robs it of leverage. When fatigue whispered that you are loved for being necessary, you rest like a protest and a prayer until the lie loses its job. The magnetic silence also asks you to become a student of exits. Leaving on time is how you keep mystery from becoming manipulation. You step away while warmth is still warmth, before scarcity sneaks in to make everything louder than it needs to be. You end the night with a sentence that has nothing to sell and everything to save. This was good? Let's keep it good. In doing so, you teach chosen ones around you that restraint is not fear, it is fidelity in motion. They watch you stay human at the exact moment performance would have been cheaper, and something in them rises to match it. At day's end, return the silence to its source. Lay the compliments down where you lay the criticisms. Name the moment you enjoyed being impressive and the moment you chose to be present instead. Name the invitation you refused that would have made you louder and smaller. Name the prayer you whispered when you felt your power magnetize a room and didn't want to mistake it for permission. Then sleep like a man whose shine is not rented from strangers. Tomorrow will call for the same coherence. You will have it, because coherence is not a mood. It is a vow you keep, one small choice at a time. Chosen one, the gaze that lingers is often looking for itself. When women meet you and their attention holds, they are not witnessing a spell. They are encountering a mirror. Your alignment reflects possibility back to them, a version of their strength unbent by cynicism, their softness unpunished by speed, their intelligence unpriced by markets that rarely pay women fairly in dignity. Your calm tells them there is room for their full voice. Your boundaries tell them there is room for their full safety. Your laugh tells them joy is not a negotiation. In that reflection, memory wakes. They recall who they were before fear taught them to rehearse smaller stories. A mirror can heal or harm depending on who holds it. If you turn it toward your ego, it becomes a trap. Every glance a confirmation, every sigh a currency, every conversation a ledger. But if you hold it like a steward, the mirror becomes ministry. You angle it toward higher light. You let people see themselves without distortion. You decline to turn their admiration into a debt. You remind them, sometimes with nothing more than the way you breathe, that they are not late, not too much, not impossible. You refuse to be the destination. You become instead a brief, bright accuracy that sends them home taller. Projection will arrive wearing both roses and warnings. One person will paint you as rescue because their story needs a hero. Another will paint you as hazard because their history needs a villain. The mirror doesn't argue with paintings. It returns to clarity. You name what is yours and what is not in sentences that neither flatter nor fight. I can listen, and I cannot carry what your history hired me to hold. I can be kind, and I will not be rented. I can enjoy this connection, and I will not trespass my own covenant. Spoken in a warm tone, these boundaries do not humiliate. They simply remove theater from the stage until truth has space to speak. Your high sexual energy participates here as illumination, not hypnosis. It brightens details that confusion keeps in shadow. It brings color back to cheeks that shame has drained. It sharpens edges around choices so that consent is not an afterthought, but a forethought. You let the light tell the truth about doors, which are open, which are closed, which are beautiful, but not yours. Desire becomes a teacher when it's allowed to inform without being allowed to govern. You thank it for its lessons and then ask purpose to write the policy. In this order, no one has to be dismantled for you to feel powerful. The mirror must be kept clean. Humility is the cloth. When praise lands, you do not swat it away with false modesty. You place it where it belongs, as feedback about what God and discipline have done together. When critique lands, you do not dramatize it as persecution. You examine it for the small percentage that can make you truer. When misunderstanding swells, you do not chase it with explanations that make you the subject of a story that isn't yours. You let fruit handle your PR. The people you return to themselves will advocate without noise. Time will testify without invoices. Sometimes the mirror reveals hunger that has not learned its own name. A woman may feel magnetized and assume you are the meal. You honor the hunger by naming its source. You say without sermon and without shame that attention is not affection, chemistry is not covenant, and wonder is not a warrant. You offer a glass of water where thirst tried to buy wine. You offer a clear yes where ambiguity hoped to keep options warm. You offer a gentle no where fantasy attempted to recruit you as a character. These offerings are not cold, they are pastoral. They save both of you from a story that would have been expensive in regret. You will also meet strength equal to your own, presence that reads you clearly and chooses curiosity over conquest. With such women, the mirror becomes dialogue. You learn as much as you teach. You practice the art of admiration that does not audition. You discover new sections of your own blueprint reflected in their courage, their intellect, their wit. Mutuality is the safest electricity on earth. It gives without posing for cameras. It receives without tallying. It lets both people leave with more agency than they brought. Keep your language precise so the mirror doesn't smudge. Flattery fogs it, clarity clears it. You can say, I find you compelling and still protect tomorrow. You can say, I am not available for romance and still honor the connection. You can say, I'm interested in building something that outlasts mood and then prove it with calendar and craft. Precision is slow mercy. It prevents people from writing scenes you never promised to act in. It also prevents you from performing versions of yourself your soul cannot afford. The maintenance of this mirror requires solitude. Alone is where you let God measure you, without the applause that would inflate or the criticism that would shrink. Alone is where you remember that being the chosen one does not mean being the central one. Alone is where you release any compliment you subconsciously took hostage and any wound you secretly weaponized. Alone is where you return to being a person, not a projection screen. In that privacy, your light stops trying to be impressive and returns to being useful. At night, review the reflections you hosted. Where did someone stand taller after speaking with you? Where did you become a better listener because you decided accuracy mattered more than appearing wise? Where did you soften your tone without softening your standards? Where did you confuse being wanted with being called, and how did you fix it? Gratitude for the first, repentance for the second, sleep for both. Morning will ask for the same clean mirror. You will bring it. And if anyone insists on calling your effect hypnosis, let them. You know what it truly is. A life trained to reflect light without stealing it. A standard that helps chosen ones remember themselves. A man who can be looked at without making looking dangerous. You carry the mirror carefully, and you keep walking. Chosen one, there is a difference between magnetism and gravity. Magnetism shouts with sparks. Gravity whispers with weight. Your high energy once flashed like lightning, brilliant, startling, gone in a breath. Now, under God's hand, it has condensed into mass, integrity layered on integrity until rooms can feel the pull of your coherence before they can name it. This is why people orient when you arrive. Not because you demand attention, but because your steadiness gives everything else something reliable to move around. Gravity does not chase comets, it offers a center. Real presence is a quiet astronomy. Women notice the change first because bodies read safety faster than minds craft sentences. They enter your orbit and find, to their surprise, that they are not being captured, but calibrated. They feel themselves becoming more accurate, speech unforced, humor clean, posture unarmored. Your draw is not a cage, it is a climate. This is the holy difference between allure and predation. Allure respects distance and timing, understands that orbits require space, and knows that closeness without consent collapses into collision. Predation, by contrast, devours distance and calls it destiny. You have been chosen to model an older wisdom, to be a sun, not a black hole. Suns hold themselves, generate their own light, and give without consuming their planets to prove they are powerful. Black holes swallow what they cannot steward. The world has seen enough of those. Choose to burn, not to devour. Gravity, when held righteously, is hospitality with a spine. You create a center where honesty can sit down without rehearsing. You are learning the craft of proportion, and proportion is how safety gets built. You keep conversations at a temperature where truth can survive, where compliments do not become contracts, where admiration does not turn to entitlement simply because the room is warm. You listen until words relax. You speak only what your peace can carry. You let silence do its part of the work. If someone leans closer because the air is gentle, you do not mistake the lean for a lease. You bless closeness by clarifying its terms. In this way, attraction becomes architecture, not accident. There is a temptation inside every bright season to use gravity as leverage. You will notice how easily doors open, how schedules adjust, how even conflicts soften when you enter. The immature heart will try to translate this into discounts on the cost of virtue. A pass on patience here, a shortcut on consent there, a little borrowing from tomorrow's peace because today's applause is loud. Gravity governed refuses that exchange. You do not let your weight bend rules designed to keep love sweet. You slow the moment instead, reminding yourself that the strongest pull you exert must be toward what is good, not merely what is available. If curiosity approaches with hungry eyes, you greet it with kindness and boundaries, because boundaries are bridges between honest people, not walls between adversaries. The bridge remains open only as long as dignity crosses both ways. Your presence also reorganizes envy without needing to speak of it. In certain rooms, attention sharpens into competition because scarcity has been teaching liturgies for years. When you carry gravity, you end the liturgy by not playing. You bless the contribution of others out loud. You step aside when the work needs a different center of mass. You lend your steadiness and resist the urge to be necessary. Necessary men become brittle, assigned men become durable. You are assigned, free to pivot, free to rest, free to say not for me when an opportunity asks you to shrink your soul to fit its stage. In that freedom, others remember theirs. This is how chosen ones multiply safety, by refusing to turn influence into oxygen and then hoarding it. The physics of your life now requires a chart of ethical orbits. Some lives will pass near you once, flare with beauty, and keep traveling. Bless their trajectory, do not lasso them. Some will circle closely for a season and then widen to a safe distance as seasons change. Let the widening be gentle and unsuspicious. Some will become constant companions, peers, mentors, beloveds, whose orbits stabilize your own and whose counsel keeps your gravity from turning into entitlement. Name those companions, honor their mass in your life, feed their presence the attention it deserves. You are no solitary star. You belong to constellations that teach travelers how to cross the dark. There is also the matter of tides. Gravity moves water, and water tells truth about what is hidden. Your presence will lift emotions to shorelines where they can be seen. Laughter will rise more easily, grief will collect at the edges of sentences, longings will draw pictures on the sand before words are ready. Treat tides like guests, not suspects. When someone's eyes shine, let them speak. When someone's voice falters, slow your own. When desire names itself, show it the map of your covenant, and let it choose honestly whether it can walk with you at that pace. Tides will also visit your chest. Don't mistake your own rising for a demand. You are allowed to feel deeply and still answer carefully. Depth becomes danger only when it refuses to be shepherded. Your gravity is fed through ordinary acts that will never trend. Sleep with humility so your strength doesn't borrow cruelty to keep itself awake. Drink water before opinion, so thirst does not dress itself as destiny. Keep the appointment with prayer so your inner mass remains centered where weather cannot reach. Finish what you promise, so rooms learn that warmth here does not come with invoices later. Laugh in ways that do not hire someone else's embarrassment as entertainment. These are small decisions that make large orbits safe. They are also how you keep from falling into the oldest trap, mistaking being watched for being wise. Wise men live accurately when no one is watching, so that when they are, the view is safe for everyone. Finally, learn the art of release. Gravity that refuses release becomes tyranny. There will be faces you cherished that must move on, seasons you adored that must conclude, versions of yourself that must be thanked and retired. Release them with prayer, not with performance. If you broke something, repair. If you could not repair, refuse to rename breakage a blessing. If you loved well and timing changed, bless what was without auditioning resentment to write your next chapter. Release keeps your orbit clean. Clean orbits draw clean souls. That is the true miracle of presence. Not that people can't look away, but that when they do, they see more clearly than before. Chosen one, sound reaches the heart faster than grammar. Before a sentence decides its nouns, tone has already told the body whether it can come out from behind the curtain. This is why women sometimes lean towards you, even when your phrases are plain. Your voice, by which I mean your timbre, your pace, your pauses, your posture, your breath, carries a weather system. Under God's training, your high energy has become a climate of articulation. You speak with air that has been filtered by reverence, and the room inhales. Words arrive as evidence of alignment, not substitutes for it. The first voice that shapes the others is the one you use inwardly. If your inner narration is a drill sergeant demanding spectacle, your outer tone will hunt for rooms to dominate. If your inner voice is a coward hiding behind compliments, your outer tone will flatter where it should clarify. Governance begins by discipling the words you never say out loud. Talk to yourself as a steward speaks to a trust, firmly, truthfully, without humiliation. Bless desire as a guest, ask it direct questions, assign it a seat, and put wisdom at the head of the table. When the inner counsel is honest, the outer sound becomes simple. Simplicity is what people mistake for hypnosis. It is merely the absence of clutter. Your pauses are part of your vocabulary. A pause says, I am not trying to win you, I am trying to be true with you. A slower sentence says, I believe we will both still be here after this truth lands. Silence after someone reveals something tender says, I will not spend your courage with my cleverness. In a world where speed has impersonated care, your pacing becomes pastoral. Women who have been rushed through their own stories will feel the novelty of someone who refuses to let urgency set the fee schedule for intimacy. Your restraint is not coyness, it is craftsmanship. You do not more words on the table than the future can afford to carry. There is music to honest boundaries, and you are learning its key. I'm grateful, and I won't cross that line. I'm honored, and I move at the speed of truth. I'm drawn, and I'm guarding tomorrow. These phrases, voiced without edge, turn heat into light. They teach that consent is not a bureaucratic form, but a melody where both voices can be beautiful. The more your mouth normalizes such music, the less mystery must carry the burden of allure. People will call your tone gentle, let them. Gentleness is not the absence of power, it is power trained to bless. Be careful, though, not to use tone as a tool of manipulation. A smooth baritone can hide a sharp agenda. A calm cadence can cloak control. The test is always agency. Do people leave conversations with more or less authorship over their own choices? If your voice makes others feel smaller to make space for your legend, you are not enchanting, you are conscripting. Repent quickly when you notice the drift. Ask forgiveness without performance. Change your phrasing before you change the subject. The world has had enough of men whose mouths were impressive and expensive. You are being fashioned into a man whose words become windows, not walls. Your communication will often be read through text before it is heard by ear. Even there, your voice can be pastoral. Punctuate with proportion. Emojis and exclamation points are seasoning, not sauce. Write like someone whose time belongs to God, which means you will answer when you can actually bring attention, not when anxiety demands instant reaction. If desire rises during the thread, do not perform it with irresponsibility. Put your phone down and let your soul rejoin your thumbs. Precision in digital spaces is part of the vow of safety you carry. The same energy that could send 3 reckless lines in a minute can fund a disciplined hour that keeps the next year clean. The voice beyond words is also posture. Shoulders that do not crowd, hands that rest, eyes that witness rather than harvest, breaths that do not hurry the other person across their sentence. These preach quietly. Women whose histories made them experts in microtones will notice that your body does not require them to be smaller to feel safe. They will remember the conversation, not because you dazzled them with phrases, but because your presence allowed their own voice to surprise them with its strength. This is the point. If your communication minimizes the other, it has failed, even if they leave starstruck. If your communication magnifies the other without auctioning yourself, it has succeeded, even if they leave with no fireworks. There is a prayer you can keep near your throat before rooms open. Let my words leave people with more agency, not less, more clarity, not more choreography, more peace, not more pressure. Pray it until your sentences carry it without you remembering to try. Then make amends when you miss. Small repairs keep your sound trustworthy. I rushed you. Let me slow down. I was clever when I should have been clear. Here is what I actually mean. I heard what I wanted. Now I want to hear what you said. Such confessions are rare enough to be magnetic. They also detox your charisma, so it stops trying to earn what integrity will build in due time. In certain moments, your voice will be asked to bless. Blessing is not flattery. Blessing names what is true and calls what could be true into the open. When you bless, you speak with the gravity of someone who answers to more than the room. You are not late, spoken to a weary woman who thought the calendar had humiliated her. Your no is holy, spoken to a soul trained to apologize for boundaries. You are safe to take your time, spoken when the world is selling speed like salvation. Blessings like these are sacraments men can carry in their mouths. Use them carefully. They move furniture and hearts. Do not neglect the way your voice closes things. Endings are the most memorable sentences in any chapter. When you finish a conversation, do it while tenderness still has breath. Offer a summary that keeps dignity on both sides. Offer a plan that does not mortgage anyone's tomorrow. Offer a farewell that returns power rather than hoarding it. This was good. Keep what's yours. Departures list train communities to expect clean exits. Clean exits create trust. Trust over time becomes the very definition of your sound. And when the day is done, return your voice to the altar where it learned its pitch. Sit in a quiet room and let your throat rest while your heart speaks. Tell God the jokes that kept you human. Tell him the tremor you felt when admiration tried to purchase access at a discount. Tell him where you cut a sentence short so wisdom could arrive, and where you let a sentence run too long because vanity enjoyed hearing itself. Ask for a gentler consonant tomorrow, a truer pause, a tone that makes it easier for truth to survive. Sleep under the promise that you do not have to enchant to be effective. You are a chosen one whose sound has been claimed for service, and service, in the end, is the most irresistible voice on earth. Chosen one, there is a difference between a blaze that devours and a hearth that keeps a house. Your high energy is fire by nature, and fire is honest. It will reveal what the room is made of, and it will reveal what you are made of. Unkept, it reaches for anything dry and calls it destiny. Governed, it warms without demanding a debt. This month, you are apprenticing yourself to the older art of holy combustion, the discipline of heat that heals. Think of the blacksmith who places steel in the coals and does not rush the color. Think of the baker who keeps the oven steady because bread is a relationship, not a race. Think of the potter who watches the kiln, knowing too much heat at the wrong hour turns vessel into ruin. Your body is a kiln, your attention the fuel, your desire the flame, your character the temperature gauge. If you learn to read the glow, you will stop being surprised by what you set alight. The first truth of the flame is that proximity matters. A bonfire seen from a hill brings a village together. A spark in a dry field scatters it. You are learning to choose the hill. You keep a portion of your warmth public, generous and unspecific. The smile that lowers a room's pulse, the calm that invites stories to unfold without audition, the humor that does not hire cruelty for laughs. This is warmth for many. The rest you reserve for covenant, heat that belongs inside promises, heat that has a home and a name. You do not apologize for this division. You maintain it like a good lamp keeps its oil. People who have only known men who spend heat like coins will be confused by your carefulness at first. In time, they will call it shelter. There is a pace to say fire, and it is slower than spectacle. You have felt the pull to accelerate the moment because the glow is persuasive and the room votes with its eyes. Speed is the counterfeit of intimacy. It produces the sensation of closeness without the structure to keep anyone whole. When the pull comes, breathe until the feeling remembers its rightful place, as teacher, not tyrant. Ask your flame questions it cannot lie to. What will remain beautiful about this choice tomorrow morning? What honor will this make easier for both of us? Where is our shared yes, not just our simultaneous hunger? The temperature drops to truth when you ask, and in that honesty, your heat becomes service instead of strategy. Your flame will also be asked to cook what should only be warmed. Admiration arrives like raw bread dough. Lively, fragrant, not yet food. Many men shove it into the hottest oven and call the rising romance. You bless it differently. You give admiration language and time. You say the precise sentence that keeps it honest without turning it away. I see you and I won't sell you a future I don't intend to pay for. You leave room for respect to proof. You do not addict anyone to your glow to keep the night from feeling lonely. When loneliness comes, and it will, you treat it as weather, not as a reason to burn the furniture. You read a page, you take a walk, you pray the prayer that keeps tenderness from becoming currency, and the hour passes without a casualty. Every flame longs for fuel. You must choose yours. Rumor is cheap kindling. It crackles and dies. Vanity is gasoline. It roars and leaves a stain. Gratitude is hardwood. It burns steady and gives more heat than smoke. Build your fire with the slow materials. Thank you set on schedule. Rest honored before collapse. Food that respects your body. Friendships that do not require performance to keep their chairs. The room will feel the difference and not know why. Heat from hardwood does not make people nervous. It makes them human again.